Welcome to the Trojan Insider post-game show. My name is Peter Ghersen.
I'm Scott Schrader, publisher of TrojanInsider.com.
And we're here at Stanford Stadium after USC falls 17-3 to the Cardinal, now 1-1 on the year. Scott, it was a huge game week 2. We knew USC was going to have to come in here and play tough in this environment. It didn't happen. The offense sputtered, they couldn't finish drives. The defense honestly played pretty well, but the offense couldn't get it going. You were down on the field, I was on the press box. What did you see?
You know, on the field, you miss a lot. But on the field, it just seemed probably worse than it seemed to you. It seemed like the running game, from my perspective, was actually decent. I don't know what the numbers were and all that kind of stuff, but it seemed like they didn't convert third down. It seemed like drives were going along and then they would just stall. It seemed like they made things harder on themselves. USC, Stanford's a good football team, but it seemed like USC was making things harder than it had to be on them. So that was the feel that I got. And offensively, man, I'm not sure I've seen a worse performance from USC in quite a while. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to fix it. But at the same time, they weren't maybe as far off from putting 17 points up themselves.
Yeah, it was the first time since 1997 that USC scored just 3 points or less. First time since that Alabama game a few years ago in Dallas, where USC failed to score a touchdown. They just got that one field goal. We talked about it. Chase McGrath missed a 53-yard field goal in that first quarter that could have changed the complexion of the game.
Right.
You say, sometimes sports, it's mental. That can really change it. USC went into halftime at 14-0.
Mm-hmm.
They usually come back and make adjustments at the half.
Yeah.
We weren't thrilled by the play calling. A lot of fans on the site were saying that too.
Yeah.
You can't always harp on that though. You guys have to execute, and it didn't actually come through tonight. But one thing, a big stat that we really noticed, we don't want to get too deep into stats, but one stat was that Stanford only outgained USC by 10 yards. USC threw for more yards. USC had less penalties than Stanford. The time of possession was 1 minute in favor of Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
So really it wasn't like a dominating performance at all by Stanford by any means. It was just USC, as you mentioned, didn't finish drives. And Clay Helton talked about that last week.
Yeah.
They got stuck in the red zone. Chase McGrath kicked 5 field goals last week. It was easy against the UNLV team to come over that. But against a well-coached Stanford team with David Shaw, it's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah, it seemed like Stanford had a big run from Bryce Love, and they had a couple of big third down conversions, third and long, and so they had some big plays. But overall, Stanford really didn't move the ball either. So hence you have the equal yardage, because overall, if you're looking at this thing, this football game from the perspective of a fan who isn't a USC fan or a Stanford fan, that was really a terrible football game. I got done watching that game, and I thought, man, if I was watching on TV, I would have turned it off. But Stanford is a good team. They're a well-coached team, but USC has way too much talent to just put 3 points on the board against this Stanford team. This Stanford team's not that good.
Yeah, we know USC has way better recruiting classes over the last few years compared to Stanford. Yeah, I think USC's personnel is a lot better, but Stanford executed tonight. We also got to talk about it's a true freshman quarterback out there, a guy that would be a senior in high school right now.
Right.
And we all, pumped him up because he had a pretty great start last week, 285 yards, a touchdown, no picks. And we all have high expectations for the kid. He's succeeded his whole life. Tonight wasn't exactly his night. Had his first 2 college interceptions, got sacked 4 times, fumbled it on one of them on a 4th down. So yeah, I don't think the offensive line gave him as much time as he would like. A lot of pocket collapses and times where he just had to force the ball out. Tyler Vaughn's was really the only guy that got involved. We were the whole first half. We were asking, where is Amon-Ra St. Brown? He led the team in receptions and yards last week, and he had 0 targets in that first half of that. For me, that can't happen.
Yeah, you're wondering. JT went out with the hand issue after hitting a helmet or whatever it was, and you're wondering, is Amon-Ra not on the field right now? Because for him to not get a single pass from his way is unbelievable. And Clay said they had an Ocho or what package?
8-ball package.
Yeah, some Ocho package or whatever the heck it was, and we were kind of joking back and forth saying, is that the one where you don't throw to him, the number 8 for the entire first half? Because you would think if JT and Amon-Ra just did what they did in high school, where it was kind of like isolate, and that's JT was just going to throw to Amon-Ra, quick slants, whatever it might be. The routes that Amon-Ra can run, you can almost just put 2 receivers to the left side of the field, put Amon-Ra over here, take your chances. So it was hard to watch, for all of us that were there.
you felt like USC was on the brink of scoring multiple times. I mean, you also said that a couple of punts were almost blocked by Michael Pittman on special teams.
Yep.
And he was literally inches away from blocking a punt. That changes the whole complexion of the game. So, 17-3 loss, looked pretty ugly on the offensive side, but a couple plays here and there, USC could have been right back in that game. Looking ahead to next week, I mean, these guys are going to practice pretty hard this week, I think.
Right.
There's going to be some left to be desired, and
they'll go look at film, and Tyler Bonds and some of the guys are talking about how as soon as they get on the airplane, this game, they'll forget about this game until they go look at film, obviously, try and correct what was going on. As bad as it seemed, maybe USC was closer than we think to scoring the 17 points to equal Stanford, which still isn't that great, but there were some drop passes on some key third downs.
Tyler Petit dropped one.
Correct. And, they didn't get 2 yards on 3rd and 2 on run plays. And
I think third down conversions was huge. I was calling the game for student radio, and there's multiple times where he said this is a huge third down for USC. They got to convert. They didn't. When Stanford had those short conversions, they'd hand it to Bryce Love. They'd find a 6'7" tight end, 6'5" tight end. I mean, that's 2 weapons when you have 2 tight end sets.
Right. With
your wide receivers like a JJ Arcega-Whiteside.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to hand KJ.
Before I forget, what was the scenario when 99 came in, which was Brett Nealon this week, by the way? It was not Justin Diedick. What was the down and distance and what was going on?
I think it was one of those 3rd and shorts, and USC tried to run it right up the gut, but it was a really predictable play where they had 2 wide receivers set. 1 wide receiver came to the line to clearly block for a run play. Mm-hmm. Stanford was all over it, and they gave it to either Segway or Mavai.
Okay. So that formation didn't work.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of formations that didn't work tonight.
Sure.
And a lot of them did last week.
But defensively, USC, they gave up the big run play to Bryce Love. They gave up some big pass plays, and Colby Parkinson is going to catch big balls. He is a tall, athletic tight end.
Good hands.
So Stanford has good football players. They have a good quarterback. They scored 17 points. USC's defense overall, I was reading some comments on Facebook and I forget where else. Twitter. Excuse me. And I was reading Clancy Pendergast is the worst coach in USC history. I mean, this was not Clancy's fault.
I think Clancy had a good night, yeah. Clancy, I talked to him after the game, and, they didn't exactly bottle up Bryce Love. He got 140 yards on the ground, but it didn't feel like he was running all over him. Yes, he had the big 50, 60
But it didn't.
runs.
You're right. It did not feel like he was.
It wasn't like some other games where he just runs free.
Right.
And, I would like Stephen Carr to get a little more involved, some more touches, some more screen passes and stuff, more outside running and more space. But it didn't happen. So they'll go back to practice. I think the defense was not happy with themselves, but they didn't get lit up. The offense, obviously, a lot left to be desired, a lot of room to grow. I mean, Clay Helton's pretty much said this is a learning experience, right?
It is, especially for
freshman.
I don't care how good JT Daniels was in high school. This was his 2nd college football game up at Stanford against a well-coached team that is talented. So, you still don't expect them to lay an egg like they did, but it's a challenge for somebody who is still in the learning process of being a college football player. So overall, it was not a good performance. USC is going to go on to Texas, who has their own issues. So
Texas barely beat Tulsa by a touchdown today. Lost to Maryland last week after starting the season. Ranked number 23rd in the nation. So I think there'll be a little more offense next week, especially out of USC. We'll be there in Austin. Scott will be down on the field, I'm guessing, in that nice
No
Texas
on the field
heat.
this time.
Okay, press box.
We get AC.
Air conditioned.
Yeah, but we will be there. We'll also be in Austin on Friday night to watch a high school football game. Maverick McElvore, a quarterback from San Angelo, Texas. They're playing Cedar Park, so we'll be at that game. USC will be at that game as well. So anyway, there's really not that much more to talk about because this was just an awful football game for USC from their perspective, at least offensively. Defensively, I don't think there were too many guys that thought they played like crap.
Yeah, a couple of corners got beat on a couple of plays, but that happens usually.
Right.
Explosive plays were still a bit of an issue for USC, but that's going to happen against a Heisman candidate like Bryce Love. And KJ Costello, I think, has really improved from even the Pac-12 championship game. He started off the game at one point 12-15, completion percentage over 80%.
Right.
He cooled off a little bit later, but he just became a game manager really at the end, keeping the ball safe. 0 turnovers, as we mentioned, 4 for USC. He won the ball game. He played smart, nothing too flashy, and you got to hand it to Stanford tonight. They were the better team.
No
So
turnovers.
we'll be back in Austin next week, a week from tonight. That's another 5:30 start. My name is Peter Ghersen.
Scott Schrader, and we will see you guys in about a week.